afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our partner hangout that we have today. I'm Sean Pratt, your host, and I'm joined by the fabulous and awesome Gal Torin. She's going to be helping me talk to you today about kind of where JFrog compares with some of the other folks and players in the space. This webinar or this session is being recorded, so we will share that out with you guys shortly after the session ends. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We have or use the Q&A button. Either one's fine. I'll be watching both of them. We will have dedicated time at the end for your questions, but honestly, feel free to throw them in as they come up. I'll try to respond to them in the moment, but we'll also cover them at the end. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. As I mentioned, I'm Sean Pratt. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager for our platform and DevOps solutions, joined by Gal Torin. She leads our kind of competitive intelligence organization, and she's part of the CTO organization. So we're going to take you through a little bit about understanding who JFrog is and kind of who are we compared to most, or who do people, say, hey, how do you guys stack up against so-and-so, or what's the difference between you and this organization? We'll talk about the value and differentiation of our platform and our offering. And then, lastly, we'll leave you with some resources that are available to help you have these conversations with folks that you're out there prospecting and talking to in the marketplace. So let's jump right in. First, a little bit about JFrog. So most people know JFrog for Artifactory, but we actually have a full end-to-end software supply chain management and security platform. We have right now over 7,200 customers. We've got a very high customer retention rate. We serve, close to 90% of the Fortune 100. We're, waiting to see who that last one is to get us to 90. We've grown quite a bit over the past few years. We're at 1,400 employees now. Globally, we've got offices around the world with a full 24-hour, 7 days a week, follow the sun support approach. Some of the things that really set us apart is that we're a universal solution. So we support over 30 different technology package types within Artifactory. We offer a full hybrid and multi-cloud solution, so you can deploy us on bare metal, in the cloud, SaaS, self-hosted, you name it, we got it. Everything that we do is very security focused, and it's not kind of like an added on, it's really built into our core product and platform. And, we offer proven scale and resilience to handle the largest organizations, the largest development teams in the world. We're talking, 100,000 developers in some of our largest customers. So that's a little bit about JFrog, just to kind of level set with everyone. So what do we see today is the pain that organizations face with modern software development. And it comes down to the fact that, software delivery processes today, they're complicated, right? Over the past decade, organizations have given developers a lot of freedom to adopt the tools and processes that they want. And that's been great to kind of help advance and speed up the development process, but that's also brought some challenges along with it, right? A big one is, especially we see with software supply chains today, is, what happens if a component gets into your software supply chain that you didn't want to be there, or it's unvalidated, or your developers are kind of downloading stuff from the internet. With this kind of tangled web of processes and tools, it also leads to challenges with understanding what was the cause of an issue. You deployed something, it's not working as it should. Where did it go wrong in the process of kind of, writing the code to it actually running somewhere? The other thing is that anytime you have to use manual steps or manual intervention, that creates an opportunity for things to go wrong, either intentionally or accidentally, right? So, we want to try to automate things as much as possible, but that's hard for organizations to do today. And as I kind of led with, software supply chain this is the new golden goose for bad actors, right? They know that this is how modern software is developed. They know that by looking at the open source is an opportunity for them to get into an organization's software that they're developing and building, and potentially infecting all of their customers as well. So these are some of the challenges that kind of we see in the development space. And we've obviously looked to develop a platform that helps to manage that. Now, obviously we're known for Artifactory. We're the binary people. So we focus a lot on what is the life cycle of a binary or the life cycle of a software release, right? While coding is important, it's only a small part of the actual full process of getting something from an idea to a functioning product. And the other thing is that, most of that code, most of that new application or that update that you're delivering is existing third-party open source software. So when we think about the life cycle with the JFrog platform, there's a number of steps that we care and help organizations manage. The first is, what are you looking or thinking about bringing in to your development organization? This is that curate stage. And then coding, selecting the right components, all of those are obviously housed and managed and brought in through the JFrog platform that are ultimately used by your developers. Building an artifact, where does that build output go? Where do you store all the metadata against it, which is part of the inventory phase? Security, which while it looks like it's a point in time here on this chain, it's actually something that is a continuous effort. It doesn't stop or end at one point in the process. Once you've kind of built your release, you have it ready to go, how do you bundle it up so that it can be matured and tracked as a single immutable unit, enforcing policies and rules and controls around what is allowed to advance in maturation versus what needs to be, hey, go back to the drawing board, this isn't working, it's failing test, it's not the right quality, etc. Promoting things so you never need to rebuild at all, because that can introduce problems if components change, or you rebuild later and you tested this version but you rebuilt it, and so now all of a sudden you have a different version of the package, and that could be causing some issues. Validating the quality of everything, and once you've got this release that you're happy with, distributing it, right? It's not so simple as, okay, we built it, now let's put it into a runtime somewhere. Distributing your software into a location so that it's actually optimized for consumption is very important, for, especially thinking about modern dynamic runtime environments. They need to be able to pull as close as possible the material that they're spinning up, versus needing to, go back to some data center somewhere. Once your release is out there, of course, being able to track and understand what's happening with it. Now, because you've used the JFrog platform, if there are issues, if there are concerns, you can easily go back and understand, what do I need to fix? What do I need to address if there are issues that happen with it? So that's a quick kind of summary of kind of like what we do from the platform and that full life cycle of a software release that we help organizations manage and take care of. So the value for our customers and prospects is that really we serve as the single system of record for your secure software supply chain, right? It helps make sure that there is a trusted chain of custody all the way from even before coding, even when you're just bringing components in that your developers may use to build new applications, all the way to the last mile of kind of delivering your piece of software to a runtime environment. It provides full visibility across every step, every action that's taken to the piece of software as it, becomes something that generates value for your customers and your business. It gives you the right level of control and integrity of the software release, which is something we hear from a lot of organizations. They kind of feel like things are happening, developers are doing stuff, but they don't feel like they really have a full grasp on what's happening and feeling like they can really implement the policies to give the right level of control and flexibility and freedom. We want to make sure, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, you automate everything. Software development should be automated. It's the best way to ensure security, maintain velocity, and really give you a high quality output. We are a full end-to-end application security solution. So having built-in security scanning at every step of the way. And it's not just about with our platform security scanning, but it's really security best practices, right? Like, for example, no organization should be allowing developers to download stuff directly from the internet. This is a security best practice. Using a tool like Artifactory as an intermediary helps you to have that visibility and control. So you know that, folks just aren't going and downloading stuff willy-nilly. You can put some policies in place to help control what's being brought in, but even doing things like signed pipelines and evidence capture. So it's not just about scanning capabilities, it's about adopting best practices in how you build and mature and release software. And the other big thing, as I mentioned in the beginning, is that, we take a universal approach. We support all of the modern packaging technologies used in applications, everything from as simple as, JavaScript, all the way to supporting AI and ML, managing those models and securing them as part of our platform. And, our customers look at us and trust that we're going to help them, be on the front line, or not the front lines, but kind of, be ready for any new technology advancement that happens. And so it really sets this foundation for their development processes and practices that is future-proof, ready for innovation, and helps them, take the organization to the levels that they want it to be at. So with that, that's kind of, a little bit of expository details about JFrog and kind of where we are and our value. And I think I'm going to hand it over to Gal, who's now going to actually jump into giving you some comparisons of, where JFrog sits versus some other categories of solutions out there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sean. First of all, I was nodding after every second sentence you said, basically, because that was a great intro. So thank you. My name is Gal. Great to meet everyone. I hope the rain in the background doesn't make a lot of noise because it just started raining, pouring actually. As Sean mentioned, I lead the competitive intelligence team as part of the CTO office. And today we'll talk about a few of our competitors, a few vendors that customers compare us to most. Some are direct competitors. We have a representative for each category. Some are direct, such as Sonatype Nexus, which you might have heard of before in the context of JFrog Artifactory. We have some platform level competitors, more end-to-end DevOps, DevSecOps platforms such as GitLab. And then we have some application security point solutions that compete with us, such as Sneak, because as Sean mentioned, we're also end-to-end application security. So let's talk about each of these categories, each of these representatives. You'll get to know them a bit, and as Sean mentioned before, also get some resources to help you in the future. So we'll start with Sonatype. Sonatype is JFrog's oldest competitor, and what most well known. When you search for JFrog competitors on Google or a JFrog comparison, the first thing you'll find is a Sonatype comparison. And we were both founded in the same year, 2008. JFrog has a bit more employees than Sonatype. We grew a bit faster since 2008. And also we went for an IPO. We are a public company now. Sonatype is currently, was acquired in 2019 by a private equity and waiting to be basically probably going to be acquired at some point by a different company. Their offering is very similar to JFrog's, to some of JFrog's platform. They don't have an end-to-end platform similar to JFrog, but they do have their core, like JFrog is Artifactory and their Nexus repository for them. And Nexus is a lot more heavily focused on security. We'll talk about that in a second. And they have two security products. One is Nexus Lifecycle, which is the broader full application or kind of fuller application security solution. And then there's a firewall, which is similar to JFrog Curation, which is a firewall, the filter at the opening of the organization to filter out any unwanted components that your developers might bring in to the organization. So you can see as part of their value proposition, that's exactly that, blocking malicious open source at the door. And you can see across all of these bullets, most of them that they, again, focus more on security, open source risk, app security into developer workflows. And that is very much a big part of their value proposition. They did start at the same place as JFrog. We both started in binary repository management, JFrog with Artifactory and Nexus with Nexus Repository Manager. But where JFrog heavily focused on the DevOps part and doubled down on Artifactory, made it universal, made it very scalable, with more enterprise-grade features that we'll talk about soon. Sonatype pivoted or focused mostly on application security, on software composition analysis, specifically for open source components, security of open source components. And that's the bulk of their business, basically. They do use Nexus Repository Manager. They have a very big install base of that, specifically their open source project, which you'll probably hear a lot about in the field. And they do use that as a lead generator, but the most of their business is definitely lifecycle, the application security product. And when it comes to DevOps, when it comes to Artifactory, they've always been a few steps behind JFrog. As I mentioned before, JFrog focused a lot on DevOps, on Artifactory, while Sonatype, in the beginning at least, focused more on security. We both kind of met in the middle in recent years. Sonatype has been focusing a lot more on improving their Nexus repository product, and JFrog has been improving our security products and security offering. And let's talk about a bit about the comparison of those. So when you're asked about JFrog versus Sonatype, I would highlight the following points as the biggest differentiators for JFrog. So aside from the fact that we have an end-to-end platform, which is a bit more comprehensive than Sonatype, there are some challenges in scalability when you're using Sonatype. And we do provide better performance at scale, high availability capabilities. We provide an extensive SLA, uptime SLA in the cloud as well. So you're probably not going to get downtime with JFrog. While with Sonatype, it's first of all, your performance isn't as good when it comes to high availability, when it comes to bigger workloads. And also, just for an example, they don't have rolling upgrades. So if you need to upgrade your Sonatype instance, you have to bring everything down and only then upgrade and then bring everything back to life. So that's a big challenge for any organization, I would say. Another big point where JFrog excels compared to Sonatype is our multi-site capabilities. So if you're talking to global organizations which have development sites in a few different places around the globe, we have very, very extensive replication capabilities as well as federation capabilities, both in terms of access and also in terms of federated repositories, basically being able to replicate automatically, have everything available, all of the packages and all of the artifacts available everywhere at the same time or very fast. So that's very important for global organizations. Sonatype does have some replication capabilities, but they're very new. And we've heard from customers that they're not as comprehensive as JFrog's. And when it comes to security, where I've been saying that Sonatype had a big advantage over JFrog for a while, I think we definitely closed the gap in recent years. And we do provide a more holistic security coverage today, a more comprehensive solution, which includes container image scanning, which Sonatype does a sliver of. They don't provide actual full container scanning. We do SAST. We have prioritization, which is very, very important. And we have a lot more secret scanning. We have more capabilities, basically, than Sonatype. So it's easier for customers to consolidate a few security tools on our platform, on the JFrog platform, instead of paying for different vendors. And if you're speaking to a Nexus open source customer that is not, or that is looking at JFrog, but they might not want to upgrade or to pay for JFrog because they're using open source at the moment, we do have affordable starting prices for smaller organizations, and we do have a SaaS trial for free as well. So those are options. I will, Sean, any questions in the chat or
Nope, all good to keep.
sounds good. Move on to GitLab then. So GitLab, as I mentioned before, they are not in the direct competitor category. They are in a end-to-end platform vendor category. So because GitLab isn't an obvious comparison to JFrog, our scope is a bit different. JFrog is the master of binaries, while GitLab is very good in source code management and in CI/CD. That's their bread and butter from the beginning. The thing is that GitLab has a very broad vision. A few years after they were founded, they decided to pivot. Basically, GitLab, I'll start with saying that they were founded as an enterprise version or self-managed version of GitHub, because GitHub has always, most of the time, has been mainly SaaS, mainly cloud offering. And for some organizations that needed tighter compliance regulations or needed to have self-hosted offering, they couldn't do that with GitHub. So GitLab came to life, and the founders said that they could do the same thing as GitHub, but give a broader enterprise-grade version of it that is self-hosted. But then after developing source code management and doing well in that, and after adding CI/CD as well, the GitLab founders decided to pivot to an entire DevOps platform. Today, they're calling it an AI-powered DevSecOps platform that is basically aiming to check all of the boxes across the software development lifecycle and have every organization be able to consolidate on one platform, on GitLab, and eliminate all of their other DevOps tools that GitLab calls do-it-yourself DevOps, because you kind of have, they're saying you have to patch it together, that it's not comprehensive. We are seeing that message change today. We have seen GitLab recently announced a closer partnership with Google. As part of that partnership, Google will be covering some of GitLab's gaps, basically. So they're kind of pivoting away from that one platform for everything story. And GitLab in general is a very interesting company, I would say. They have a very unique DNA. One of their core values is transparency. So you can find a lot of information about GitLab. That's part of their fully remote approach. They were one of the first fully remote companies in the world. And as part of that, they document everything they do. So their documentation is very comprehensive. And they have a lot of good material for any organization on their website, basically. The thing that I think GitLab is missing, I would say, is that they're focusing more on breadth versus depth. So again, checking as many boxes as they can across the software development lifecycle, while not going very deep in each of those capabilities. So like I said before, CI/CD, very good. Their source code management is very good. But when it comes to binaries, when it comes to security, when it comes to the parts that overlap with JFrog, I would say that they're lacking a lot of more comprehensive, more core capabilities that are still missing there. And let's talk about a few of them. So first of all, JFrog is the leader in binary management, and we have a full platform that is focused on the release and on your on the binary lifecycle, on the artifact lifecycle, versus GitLab, which is very source code focused. Everything comes from the source code repository. They have a package registry. They have something that is trying to compete with Artifactory, but it is very basic. I wouldn't say an enterprise could rely on it, and I'll say why in a moment. But the source code is their focus, and everything is reliant on the source code, while JFrog relies more on, or focuses more on, the binary entity, and has that binary, that release, going through the entire platform. Because in the end, what's running in production is the binary. It's not the source code. Source code matters, of course, we're not saying that binaries are more important than source code. They have to live together. But binaries are what is running in production eventually, and that's why JFrog is focusing on the security and the management of binaries and artifacts. Some key capabilities that JFrog has and GitLab is still missing when it comes to artifact management. So for instance, proxying and caching remote repositories, the capability of Artifactory to be a filter from the public internet to your organization with remote repositories, and being able to cache those packages so you never lose them, even if the public registry goes down. The metadata that we have for traceability, which Sean mentioned in the beginning, being able to have that full chain of custody from before code to code binary, and then to the release itself, to runtime, being able to track all of those steps with metadata, being able to understand who did what, who manipulated every artifact. Is this an artifact that came from my organization? Is it trusted? Those are a lot of things that GitLab at this point cannot tell you. And when it comes to security coverage, again, GitLab checks a lot of boxes. They'll say that they have static code analysis. They'll say that they have software composition analysis, dynamic analysis, and everything basically. But in all of those categories, they're very, very limited. So for instance, in software composition analysis and open source security, it's basically a checklist of looking at what your package contains versus a list of vulnerabilities. But JFrog does more than that. We actually analyze the full, we do that as well. We do the comparison of the package manifest versus vulnerabilities. But we also do a lot more deeper analysis. We can filter malicious packages. We can prioritize long lists of vulnerabilities so developers can save time, not wasting a lot of time on things that don't matter as much. Yeah, those are just a few examples. And on the topic of security, we'll finish up our series of competitors with Snyk. So Snyk is very focused on application security. That is their bread and butter. That is their core business. And they are very, very developer oriented. So they say their tagline is loved by developers and trusted by security. So they're kind of giving the best of both worlds, trying to combine those two worlds that have always been separate and make developers like security, make developers want to do security and want to be involved in security, and have security trust the developers and kind of foster a better relationship between the two sides, which are always at battle, as we know. Another big part of their value proposition, of Snyk's value proposition, is their vulnerability database, which is, I have no problem of saying that it's one of the strongest in the industry. And they have a lot of partnerships where they feed other vendors security products with their vulnerability database. And it is good. They will say a lot of the time we hear from customers that Snyk says that we do not have a strong vulnerability database. I will speak about that in a few minutes near the end. Snyk has done a very good job in growing very fast. However, from what we know, their core products are the open source software composition analysis and the SAST, static analysis products. The other products are not as well adopted, and we hear about them a lot less. So a few points to say when you're comparing JFrog versus Snyk. So first and foremost, Snyk is a point solution for application security. You're always going to need to integrate it to your Git repositories, to your IDEs, and obviously best practice to connect it to your binary repository manager as well, where you store all of your software inventory, all of your software supply chain, basically. If your entire software supply chain goes through Artifactory, you should be able to secure that as well. Snyk can integrate with Artifactory, but it's a lot more complicated and not as accurate and as seamless as JFrog is natively integrated with itself. Artifactory and X-Ray and our entire security offering is natively integrated. That makes everything a lot easier to do. First of all, to have actionable policies, to create one policy on an artifact and have that go across all of your software inventory, have an action on those policies that is done immediately, and you don't have to wait for the integration to work or for anything like that. It works natively on the artifacts themselves. And it makes scans faster as well, because everything is already indexed in Artifactory. So when you start scanning with X-Ray or with JFrog's other security products, it starts scanning immediately. You don't have to wait for it to bring, if you're doing it with Snyk, you'll have to wait for Snyk to scan, to go to Artifactory, bring that package, scan it, send the results back. It takes a lot longer, basically, while JFrog is immediate. And I was saying about how Snyk says its a vulnerability database is very strong and their research team is very strong. And that is true. I will say that happily. But they do say that JFrog doesn't have an equivalent, which is not true. JFrog has a world-class security research team. I'll show you a resource that you can access regarding that in a moment. But we do have a research team since we acquired Vdoo a few years ago, and the research team continues to expand the database. They're the ones who do the research for contextual analysis, which is our prioritization mechanism, and they've won several awards, and they continue discovering malicious packages in the wild and a lot of vulnerabilities. So I'll introduce you to a resource about that in a moment. And the last point is, again, the more holistic coverage of the binary-focused security. Snyk is a lot more source-focused. It's software composition analysis product only, like I said about GitLab, it only matches what you've declared in your package manifest compared to a known list of vulnerabilities. And JFrog does that as well. But we also do a lot more. We have more insight and more visibility into the entire finished artifact with blocking malicious packages, with prioritizing, and a lot more. And just yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just one thing to note on your second point, and sorry, I thought you were about to transition to your next slide.
That's
I didn't
fine.
mean to cut you off. JFrog is a CNA, so we find, disclose, and provide research into new CVEs, and we have a particular focus on malicious packages because of their increasing use by hackers to get into supply chains. And we've seen the rates of malicious packages are just going through the roof. So we're really focusing a lot of our attention there to the benefit of our customers and the broader community as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah, great addition. Thank you. Yeah, and just to finish up this slide, I just wanted to say that the same points that are on this slide will work versus any point solution vendor that you're talking about, basically. This goes for Synopsys, whether it's Black Duck or Kuverity, Mend, which is formerly WhiteSource, Checkmarx, Veracode, and others. And I think, this is just a general comparison for you. With all of the overview of what we talked about just now, so you can see exactly where the others are lacking, and the resources. So these will be available to you, I believe, after this webinar. I will ask, this is a mention for JFrog partner use only. Please do not share this. This is obviously this is for you to use, and we would love for you to use it and help you sell, basically, and help you do your work better. but please don't share this externally. So these are the competitive battle cards. You'll have one on each of the competitors that we spoke about today. Just a few points, our key strengths against that competitor, and some objection handling points. You will also receive a persona selling battle card, how to position the JFrog platform when you're talking to a DevOps engineer, when you're talking to a developer, when you're talking to a CIO, different personas within the organization, and a few like a get to know the persona, how to speak to them, what they're interested in, and then how JFrog could be relevant to them. We also have some comparison pages on the website, which you have the link right here. And you can see a breakdown, a feature by feature breakdown of how we stack up against our main competitors. And we also have a very nice page on the website on the same link out of that same page, where you can see how JFrog, when we're talking about universality, others might say they're universal and others are saying that they're universal, but it's not truly universal as JFrog is. And when we say universal, we not only talk about just supporting a package type and allowing you to store it in your Artifactory or any binary repository manager for that matter. We also support it throughout all of our capabilities, through remote repositories, virtual repositories, high availability, and replication, while other vendors might support a package type locally, but they don't support it across all of their features, making customers have to double check, can I actually use this package type at scale with this vendor? And that's something that is not as straightforward to find out, basically. So this is a very useful resource as well to kind of show how we stack up. And the summary of resources. So everything we talked about just now, and then a few other public materials that we have as well. The Forrester ROI study about the JFrog platform. We can show these in a minute, maybe. The security research report that we publish every year. So that was 2023's, and you can see a lot of research coming out from our security team that we mentioned before. And also our software artifact state of the union report, which we're doing again this year. And a lot of good stuff is going to come out from there. So this is a good resource to share with customers as well. And I think that is it. Sean, are there any questions?
Thanks, Gal. That's I hope everyone appreciated that fairly comprehensive look, and I think an unbiased look at kind of three categories of folks that we compare with. One thing that wasn't on that resource that might be interesting to folks, and it's easy to remember, so I'll just say it out loud, is if you go to research.jfrog.com, that actually is the microsite for our security research team, and they're constantly posting new information there. They also, what's really cool is they do generate some free open source tools when there are kind of newer CVEs or things that we want to make sure everyone in the industry is able to find and fix. They post those sorts of tools there as well. So it's a nice little resource you can have when you're talking to folks that show, hey, the quality of our research. And obviously we're doing it for the betterment of everyone, which is nice. So a reminder, folks, if you did have any questions, now is the time to ask them. Gal and I are here to take them for you. But we do have a couple of questions that did come in, so we'll get started with those. And if any other ones come in, we'll take those as well. So Gal, here's one that about a category that we didn't really cover. And it's kind of like, how does JFrog compare with the cloud providers? Like, I'm assuming they mean AWS, GCP, Azure. Do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So the cloud providers, the main cloud providers are first and foremost JFrog partners. And we have a great partnership with them and a lot of integrations with them. So despite the fact that we have some overlap in terms of products, we are very well integrated with them. So you can always, customers can always work together with the cloud environment and with the JFrog platform together. And a lot of the times we actually go to market together with the cloud providers and sell our solutions together because they work so well together, and go into organizations and show how you can combine the value of the cloud platforms and with JFrog together. They have some capabilities for binary management, for container management specifically, and we do hear about that in that sense, but it's more a partnership than competition, I would say, in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll add on a couple of points to that. Um, as Gal mentioned, we are partners with all of these guys. So for example, we're listed on every marketplace and your prospects, customers, whomever can use their existing cloud credits, their committed spend to adopt the JFrog platform. So that's something that's really cool. Um, and as Gal mentioned, sometimes there are certain capability overlap. I think that the cloud providers like to offer tooling because they want to keep people using storage and using their platforms as much as possible. So oftentimes, those specific capabilities work really well with other, let's say, AWS capabilities, right? They're made to kind of work. It's this walled garden approach, which doesn't work for everyone, right? Either you need more depth, which is something that you get with the JFrog platform in the areas that we cover, or you say, hey, I like using AWS for one thing, but I want to use this other tool, and they're not going to work well together. So, this is where the JFrog platform can come in and help. Because we're universal, because we're very technology agnostic and friendly, we can kind of be that bridge between all the different systems and tools that organizations are using because we integrate so well with everyone and we've got these really robust automation capabilities. So that's another area where there's some difference. So it comes down to, for a lot of folks, just kind of deciding how you want your software factory to be run. And for some organizations, they're totally fine to say, hey, we're going to do it the AWS way. And oftentimes that works, especially when they're small. But as they grow, then they're like, oh, actually, we've kind of pigeonholed ourselves. So some organizations will hedge against that early by adopting a platform like JFrog's. So thanks for that.
100%. Also, Sean, just to add to that, some organizations might be in a place where they've maybe started out with one cloud, but then they acquired a company and that company was developing on a different cloud platform. And now they have to use both, but they do want to centralize their artifact management. And then you can work not only multi-cloud with a few clouds with the JFrog platform, but also in a hybrid fashion. So some of your workloads might be in the cloud, some of your workloads might be on-prem, and yes, you get the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. Great. So thank you for that question. The next one that's come in, looks like this is about security. So what about JFrog's security offering versus those that have a more complete end-to-end security solution? So maybe if, we've talked about some point providers, but what about if they're more comprehensive? Gal, you want to lead off with us for this one again?
Yeah, sure. I think what makes JFrog unique when it comes to security is there are a few things, but I'll focus on two main things when you compare it to other platforms. So first of all, it's our security research team that we mentioned a few times, but I think that is absolutely one of our biggest differentiators in our security data, which also leads to our prioritization capabilities, which is something that is very, very unique to JFrog. I will say the prioritization itself is not unique. A lot of vendors offer prioritization capabilities for long lists of vulnerabilities. Some call it reachability analysis, some call it exploitability. JFrog looks at a lot of factors, not only at reachability, not only at exploitability, but actually analyze the whole context of the artifact. And that leads me to my second point, the native integration with Artifactory, which is has a lot of value because you're in the same context, you're in the same, all of your software inventory is in Artifactory already. And once you just apply X-Ray and the JFrog platform security solutions on top of that, everything is just done in the most native way, and in the context of your environment. So I think that's the biggest differentiator compared to other solutions. We might be missing some capabilities in terms of fuller application security solutions. I don't know, like dynamic analysis, for instance. But for our context, we believe that this is the best when we're talking about binaries, when we're talking about open source coming into your organization and software supply chain. This is the focus for JFrog.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you don't really want to separate the managing from the securing. It's much better if they're done together in one place. And I think Gal, you put it perfectly in terms of the better contextual, better context because we're managing everything, and it's seamlessly part of it. And I think the other thing is that it's being able to do security as part of every step, and it's just so woven into everything that we do, that you're going to get a much better experience in a single place for both your DevOps personas and practitioners and your security practitioners to kind of all be looking and working together out of the same platform versus someone saying, hey, well, my tool says this, and someone saying, well, no, my tool says that. Everyone's kind of on the same page and easily able to kind of implement the policies in one place, and everyone has visibility and understanding about how and why things are working the way they are from a operational and security context. So
Absolutely.
cool. So looks like we have one final question that's come in, and thank you to whoever threw this in there. It says, who do we reach out to if we have questions or moving forward or need more support? And this, I think, is an easy one, which I'll take. And that is that you can just reach out to your partner manager, and they can point you in the right direction, or if need be, align another session with the appropriate person here in JFrog, whether that's someone on the solution side, our competitive intelligence side, or the product marketing side, or whomever it is to best support you and your needs as you're out there talking to customers and prospects and what have you. So with that, I think that's everything. That's all the questions, and we've ended a little early, which is always nice for everyone. I want to thank folks for joining us today. Thank you, Gal, for putting together so much of this content and context for everyone. And like I said, folks, if you have any questions, please do reach out. You'll get this recording, and we hope to see you at the next partner hangout. So have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.